For our first program, we're going straight to the top. The man leading New Zealand as the country's 42nd Prime Minister. Christopher Luxon is a former airline executive and businessman turned politician who has had a rapid ascent to the top of the National Party. The job ahead for this relative political newcomer is not simple, though. He's facing rising crime, a double-dip recession and a cost of living crisis. New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, welcome to the first episode of New Zealand Edition. It's great to have you.
It's great to be with you. It's a real honour to spend some time with you. Looking forward to it.
Last year, more than 17,000 Kiwis left to move to Australia. Migration is at a record high. Are you worried about a brain drain here, that there's going to be a mass exodus?
Well, look, it's always been a feature of the New Zealand-Australia sort of relationship. And my job as a new Prime Minister is to make sure that I make this the country that New Zealanders feel that they can raise their families, they can make a contribution to their community, that if they work hard, they can get ahead. That's what it's about. There's always been strong connectivity and flows across the Tasman, arguably both ways. But what I'd say is, yes, it's been a very tough time for New Zealand the last 6 years. Our economy has gone backwards, our health and education systems and outcomes have gone backwards. And my job and the job of my team is to make sure that we rebuild our economy, make sure we restore law and order and deliver better public services so that people actually do feel this is a place they can see their future in.
Just on the economy, it's struggling at the moment, double-dip recession at the moment, so the economy is shrinking. When do you anticipate that will start to be turned around?
Yeah, look, context for you and for your viewers in Australia is that, we had a previous administration that increased government spending by 84%. Added 16,000 more public servants into Wellington here, centralised a lot of government services, but built massive bureaucracy. The consequence of all of that was it drove domestic inflation up. That has then led to higher interest rates, which has obviously slowed our economy down. 4 of our last 5 quarters, the economy has been shrinking, as you've identified, and that, of course, then leads to rising unemployment.
You've sacked a large number of public servants in the thousands. How are you balancing that act where, the economy's in the double-dip recession, that's obviously increasing unemployment, which is problematic, but at the same time you're cutting jobs?
Well, the focus has been to say, I'm sorry, but you cannot increase government spending by 84%. You cannot add, I think it's now actually 18,500 public servants into Wellington. You cannot spend billions of dollars on contractors and consultants and not deliver improved outcomes for New Zealand.
There's been a lot of talk about Orcus and New Zealand signing up to the second pillar, which is all about sharing technology. How is that progressing at the moment?
Yeah, look, essentially what has happened here is the previous administration was open to exploring what Pillar 2 Orcus could mean. The first thing I'd say is that, from a New Zealand perspective, I think Orcus does provide the region with better security and stability. I think it's a good thing. We are open to exploring Pillar 2 and what that could mean for New Zealand and whether we could participate in that.
There's been a lot of worry about the nuclear aspect as well. So the first tier, which is what Australia, the US, the UK is participating in, obviously about nuclear subs. That's obviously not what New Zealand is exploring here. But is there a concern about nuclear in New Zealand? I know you've got a treaty which opposes having anything nuclear here. Do you anticipate that you allow nuclear power Australian subs in Kiwi waters, for example?
Look, there's going to be no change to the New Zealand position on that issue. Irrespective of political party, all New Zealanders are very united in that position, and there will be no change there.
New Zealand has co-signed joint statements with Australia and Canada on the war, on Israel's war against Hamas. Is this a big role that New Zealand's going to be playing in the future, being very vocal about these types of international issues?
Well, I think it's just acknowledging where we have like-minded partners that we should, there's power in coming together. And so we've had 2 statements from the Prime Ministers of New Zealand, Canada and Australia. And that's been important because we have a perspective around that actually is an important voice to be made and to be vocalised. And so for us, very clearly, what we're seeing is a catastrophic situation in Gaza. Hamas needs to release hostages. What they undertook was utterly unacceptable. It was a terrorist event on Israel. Israel has a right to respond, but it's got to be proportionate. And so, more military action is not going to solve that problem.
Australia is increasingly taking a tougher stance on China. We've seen New Zealand's Foreign Minister Winston Peters in the US as well, so it really seems like there is a push to strengthen those like-minded connections. Is it time for New Zealand to stop sitting on the fence when it comes to China and start taking a tougher approach and calling them out more?
Well, I think our position, and you've seen that under this new administration, is that, as I said, we have a fundamental belief that our national interests are best served in the Indo-Pacific region. That means, therefore, we have security interests and also economic interests. They're both interdependent in some ways, and we are going to be much more, making sure that we stand up for our values and articulate those. And we have an independent foreign policy, as all 195 countries in the world do, but we will partner with like-minded countries where we have like-minded values.
You're the first Conservative Prime Minister in New Zealand in 6 years. What will be your legacy after your term here?
Well, my primary job is to get New Zealand turned around and back on track. We have a major set of economic challenges. We know we have a great future in this country. We know we have awesome potential, and I'm determined to realise that. And I feel very excited and very optimistic about our future in this great country of ours. But we have some real challenges in our economy. That's my immediate focus, so I can lower the cost of living and get our economy growing again. I want to restore law and order, and I want to make sure that we deliver better government and better public services. And so that's a major focus. I want New Zealand on the global stage to be a country that's recognised for standing up for values, and not just articulating those values, but following that up with action and support. And that's what you'll see.
You're a former corporate executive. You probably used to earn a lot more money. It's probably a lot less stressful than being Prime Minister in those jobs, less public scrutiny. What made you make the jump to politics? Why are you Prime Minister?
Well, I'm sorry to say this, but New Zealand is the best country on planet Earth, period. And I know my Australian viewers now are all switching off, but what I'd say to you is that I came here because I love this country. I had the privilege of living all around the world, including in Australia for 5 years. I just know that this is an awesome country, and I want it to realise its potential.
You're often criticised for not having a huge amount of political experience because you've only been a politician for 3 or 4 years now. Is it different running a company to running a country?
Well, it is, but what I'd say is I think my background's exactly what New Zealand needs right now. And I think actually the transition from my business world, corporate world, into the political world, the skill set that you have, it's about leadership. And those things are very transferable into this space. And frankly, New Zealanders elected us to get things done in this country. There's been a lot of inactivity, a lot of activity, but no achievement. And we are very, very focused on making sure we get things done for Kiwis.
New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, thank you so much for your time.
Good to be with you.